let's start here, right? I met you at Real Coaches Summit 2024.
Yep.
Arum's event in Las Vegas, and I was interested right away because I met Jeb Stewart Johnson, at Allie Gilbert's event, Silverback Summit, the October and November prior, and then he's like, "Oh, you got my friend Mike." I'm like, "You're like," it just didn't make sense to me how you guys would know each other. He's in South Carolina, you're in New York. And then I just thought you were cool. We hit it off. I'm like, I'm going to date that dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm married, but I can date a man of your caliber.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, I also appreciate you, people, before we start this podcast, you were on a call with our clients talking about some of your own personal experiences and helping them with that. So I don't need to go into the whole. So Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself. Because if guys who want to know about Mike, there's this website, google.com. Yeah. Type in Mike Doehla. Spelling will be in the show notes.
Something will pop up.
Yeah, something will pop up.
Hopefully good stuff.
What do you think would pop up?
Mike Doehla, LinkedIn, Instagram, Sold Stronger You. People Google my net worth a lot because that pops up. They Google my wedding.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that creepy?
Yeah. I mean, but that was who I was. Almost everyone in the Stronger You ecosystem knew how I met my wife, what her name was. They know my cat. They know the town I live in. They knew so much because I brought them into that world.
How'd you meet your wife?
You want to hear this story? Oh,
yeah.
Man. It's wild. So we're both from Newburgh, New York. I'm 5 years older. So there was no like high school crossover.
Right, because that would have been creepy.
Yeah, right. but we had, it's cool when you're older, right?
Yeah.
But we had a bunch of mutual friends. And I don't know how it happened, but, back in the day on Facebook, if you saw a pretty girl from your town with mutual friends, you were like, okay, add. So became friends with her. Never really talked to her. A few interactions, likes and comments and things like that. But seemed like she, over the years, dated a few people. I dated a few people. I think 8 years later, it looked like she was single. I was single. And I was like, I wanna get to know this girl. I don't know what to say or how to do it. I talked to two of my very good girlfriends, Sarah and Tara. And I was like, guys, what do I do here? One of them was like, just message her and ask her out. The other one is like, just chill. Just don't do anything. So I went to Atlantic City, which for where we are is 3.5 hours away. I go to my friend's bachelor party, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to let loose and have a good time with my friends. Turns out she was at a bachelorette party at the same place. Someone that I was friends with in my group knew someone that was in her group, and the two groups converged. The whole night we just hung out. She knew of me, I knew of her. We talked about like the nutrition stuff. She was probably trying to just break the ice. Mm-hmm. We went to different bars together. We basically bailed on our two groups.
Right.
Ended up jumping in the ocean like a bunch of maniacs.
How old were you?
31.
Okay.
This was about 4 months after I started the company.
Okay.
So I was all excited talking about that. And we fell asleep on the beach. PG, don't worry, not too crazy. And it was like the rest is history. Now we have kids and we're married. So
that's cool.
Awesome story. People think I like swiped right. Is that what the kids do on Tinder?
I don't know. I never had I told my wife, I never had the opportunity. You robbed me of that, babe.
It's good. I was on there before. It's a shit show. But yeah, it was, dude, it's like a storybook little story.
That's
like
cool.
She lived 1.5 miles down the road from me. I had no idea.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy.
Well, I think that speaks to a lot of what we were talking about with our clients today.
Yep.
The idea that you can never know enough people in your town if you run a local business.
Right.
Right? And like your future wife lived 1.5 miles away and you never knew it.
Yeah, had no idea. Knew of her through friends and Facebook, but had no idea she was right down the street. Like I would run past her road, it was right by the local park. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, obviously, I imagine anybody who's ever met anybody who's local to them could have walked past that person 1,000 times and never noticed until all of a sudden, now you're together.
And it's just, life is so crazy. It's just like this crazy series of events that put you in certain positions that sometimes are good and sometimes are bad. It's like we could have both met someone else, but we didn't. And we're living happily ever after right now. It's such a wild thing that's how, I guess, different and fragile and wild life can be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think your What I think is especially interesting about you that I want to talk about a bit today is I think a lot of people would think, and I think rightfully so, right? You have effectively lived the American dream.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, well, you grew up, I don't know anything about your family growing up, but from a professional perspective, you start a company chasing your passions. You start a CrossFit gym out of your garage because it's an easy way into fitness, right? You start talking to people about their nutrition. You start talking to people about their nutrition on Facebook groups, not even trying to really start a business, just trying to be helpful. It turns into a business, which turns into 50,000 plus clients over the course of what, like 8 years?
Yeah, 7-ish.
Right? 100 plus people working for the company, and you end up getting to sell it to Anytime Fitness. You leave. Now you're a trophy husband and a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, that's it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what is that whirlwind like? Because people, well, let me give you a preface, because people say all the time, like, how do you do it? I'll tell you how you do it, slowly and incrementally. Like, you haven't been doing it long enough. It's, all of these things about being patient and gradual. And here you are, 8 years beginning to end in that chapter.
I think it happens because it's not supposed to happen. I'm in some circles where, people want to make some money, get wealthy, whatever they call it. And they're like, how do I do it? And it's like, that's the wrong question to ask. You somehow get really good at something that the world needs that you happen to love to do. And for me, that was the story. I didn't, growing up, like, had no idea what I wanted to do. Was like such a shy person. Like, the thought of being on something like this or talking in front of anybody was just so foreign to me. And it directed my entire life. Like, I didn't try out for sports teams because I was shy. I played in my neighborhood. I dominated my friends, but no one knew. I could never do anything with it because I was so shy. Went to community college because I didn't want to go away. I didn't want to leave my family and my friends locally.
Did your friends go away, or did they stay home too?
Some of them did, but a lot of them also went to the local community college. Right. I did really pretty good in high school, so I could have gotten into decent schools, but I didn't want to. And I fell into banking. I was in that trap. I was into HR. No, I was up north. So retail banking, not even not cool investment banker where you make money. Like, basically it's like a retail job. Yeah. I mean, I was doing loans and stuff like that, but it's still at that time, $32,000 a year, $35,000 a year. Moved to San Diego with my best friend, Mike, who was our COO at Stronger You. Lasted 6 months, came home, and not to get all weird and dark, but my mom passed away like shortly after I moved home. Had cancer, and I was back in school because I wanted to teach. I wanted to get the hell out of banking. I didn't want to do something I didn't love to do all day. So.
Was your mom being sick part of the reason you moved back?
No, we had no idea. It was just kind of like weird timing. I came home for Christmas while I still lived in San Diego, and I was like, I miss my friends, I miss my family. I'm just gonna come back because, like, you're in the perfect weather. Like, you could make the argument that San Diego is the best weather in the world, but it's like we don't know anyone out there. So it's like, what am I going to do? Hang out with the palm trees? Again, I'm a shy dude. I'm not outgoing at that point. And I came home, and like one day she's just like acting a little weird, right? And you're like, oh, whatever. It's mom. She's weird, right? Goes to the hospital. Turns out she has tumors on her brain, lung cancer, dies 4 days later. Wow. And I'm like, I'm 23. I'm like, okay, drop out of school. I was back in school to try to get the prerequisites to teach eventually. Had to drop out, went full-time back at the bank, and it's like, I'm just gonna be this like dude that has a job he doesn't like, because that's what happens to everybody.
How did you break that cycle?
After many years of just trying to find what I was into, and like I fell into the fitness thing. Funny enough, it was on a BMW forum. I like cars and stuff, so I was on a BMW forum way before I should have been able to buy one.
I was gonna say, making $32,000 a year?
Yeah, of course. Stupid, right? It's like people that have 1,500 calories a day and eat cookies all day. Right. It's like, maybe you should spend your money a little wiser, right? You live and you learn. So met a guy named Greg. He had a little garage setup of his own, and he's like, dude, you got to get into this, like, this CrossFit-y stuff. And I'm like, okay. Well,
what year is this?
This was probably like 2011 or so. And he told me where to buy the stall mats, where to buy like secondhand equipment, what I needed. And it just pops up in my garage, and I'm like, maybe I can make this into a job somehow. So then
Did you start bringing people into the garage to train?
Yeah, at that point, it was just a bunch of friends. I was like, just come work out with me in the little corner of the garage. And then I was like, how do I break into this industry? Like, I want to work in the field. I didn't go to college for that. I have a 2-year associate's degree in business. So I'm not like a, exercise science major or anything like that. So I thought of, what do? Do I just get like NASM certified? That seemed a little more difficult than I wanted to. Right. And this is who I was at the time. I was not a hard worker because I didn't want to do those things. So I sold out a little bit and was like, I'm gonna do the weekend course in Massachusetts and get the CrossFit cert. I'll affiliate in my garage. I'll get enough clients. I'll blow up. I'll get a warehouse. I'll have 7 jobs as a CrossFit owner, and I'll live happily ever after. But
it's interesting that I want to come back to that in a second, but it's interesting that you describe yourself as someone who wasn't or isn't a hard worker. Yeah. Because I want to push you back on it. I think we're very similar in the way that you're describing. Yeah. It seems you are really good at finding work that gives you energy. And so it doesn't feel hard to do it. Yeah. Which doesn't mean you're not a hard worker. I imagine you built a very successful company. You made great friends along the way. You built a very strong community. You sold it for a price that allows you to live whatever kind of a life you want, I imagine. We don't have to talk about the specifics of that. But that takes hard work. It just probably never felt hard for you because you made sure you only did things you liked.
Yeah, it was play. I say this, and I don't want people to take it the wrong way, but it was the easiest and most fun thing I've ever done in my life was build a successful business because it was exactly what I wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. So all right, so let's go back to the gym for a second. How did you get out of your garage into a place that you could monetize?
Well, I never got out of the garage.
Okay.
Metaphorically speaking, I went on the internet, but no one cared about my garage gym. There was a lot of nice CrossFits in the area, I think some of which you know about, and I'm trying to compete with that. I missed the boat on the garage CrossFit. This was 2012. Like, no one cared about the garage CrossFit at that time. So max, I had like 10 or 11 people, 12 total members. Right. It would be reckless if I jumped ship from my full-time job and tried to rent a warehouse with that. So I was working with Trevor Cashy at the time as my nutrition coach. Someone I think everybody should be familiar with. He was 23 and was a PhD. Like, just, I don't know how that happens, right? Just smart ass dude. He was like, you can do this. Like, you could do online nutrition. So I dropped the CrossFit affiliation because I didn't want to spend another $3,000 of credit card money that I didn't have. Right. At that time I'm working full time, not making a lot. So I went online and I just started talking about food stuff. And I crossed paths with a few right people that trusted me and my, at the time, quite contradictory advice to what was popular. At this time, as many people remember, paleo was the thing, right? Everybody was. The only thing. It was the only thing, especially in the CrossFit community.
Well, it's because Rob Wolf was the owner of, I think, affiliate number 2 or 3 and 5.
Yep.
And he wrote the paleo diet, the paleo solution.
Yep.
And so it became, okay, this is CrossFit's nutrition guy, the same way that Kelly Starrett was CrossFit's mobility guy.
Yep.
So that's the nutrition that they ran.
So yeah, that's what I was saying, the opposite of what many of the experts were saying. And now I think people are more aligned on this stuff. And I'm not pretending to be like the trailblazer in the industry because I learned from other people like Cashy and, the RP guys were very big on this stuff at the time. And they were talking, especially these high output CrossFitters, they need some like quick digesting carbs. So like it might not be in their best interest post-workout to pound sweet potatoes, healthy fats, and vegetables. It's just going to sit in the gut. So I'm like, all right. So when some random dude is saying that gummy bears post-workout might be okay for the right person, people are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But it was almost like people were like, I want that to be true, and maybe it is, so let me give this guy a shot. And client number 1 was someone I happened to run into at a Festivus competition, the unsanctioned CrossFit event. I was judging as help, and they were like, Mike, can you judge this athlete? And it turned out Cindy, who owned a gym close to me, needed help with her nutrition. So after we became friends, I started talking on Facebook, sharing all this stuff, and she's like, why don't you come to my gym? And why don't you tell me, I remember so vividly, it was just a random Saturday. No one was there. I went, sat on homemade boxes to box jump. And I just talked her through it, had introduced her to the flexible dieting approach, basically took away her bulletproof coffee, saved her quite a few calories. And she got ripped in 6 weeks. And I'm not saying that the program was perfect and that was doable for everyone, but she had the ideal body type, muscular, but a little bit of extra fat, shed it off. And everyone after that was like, all right, this dude talking about sugar and gummy bears and cereal and protein is onto something.
Do you remember Chrissy May Cagney?
Yep.
So I think she was coming up about the same time you were. She's the person who put me on the map.
Yep.
And I remember she came to our gym to do a seminar. I imagine this is exactly the kind of stuff that you used to do, where she was a patient of mine and she's talking about the way that people could eat. And I'm like, wait, hold on a second. You're telling me I could even eat a donut? And I was never like, ooh, let me manipulate the numbers so I can eat donuts. But her thing was donuts and deadlifts. And it cut through because it was such an alarm bell for everybody that maybe what they thought was wrong wasn't so wrong. And she came to our gym. She did a seminar. And I was like, we don't coach nutrition. Just coach people. If they need help, just help them. And she probably signed up 10 people that day.
Right.
And then they probably referred. I mean, she still owns Black Iron Nutrition. And I owe her a great debt of gratitude for putting me on the map back in the day. Why do you think it's so hard for people to raise their hand and say the common sense thing?
Well, I don't know if this whole energy balance, macros, flexible dieting thing is common sense to the average person yet. I think still most people think that they have to eat quote unquote clean. They have to have just like lean meats, vegetables, healthy fats, and that's it. If you have a cupcake or cereal or donuts or whatever, it's bad because sugar is bad, carbs are bad. Funny enough, like if you look at the calorie breakdown of some of these foods, like a donut or cookies, like most of the calories are coming from fat, but everyone blames carbs. It's just a lack of, I would say, real world experience. They were listening to all the supposed experts, which seemed to make sense. Why would sugar and donuts be okay, right? I mean, that goes against our logic. So it took a while for that to click for people. I mean, you still see people arguing with it, and I think it's going the other way again. I think
Really?
a lot of people are getting away from talking about how people can have donuts and be okay because they don't think that adults can be responsible on their own.
Do you think it's because it's swung so far? Like, for example, it became, for some people, a math game where it was like, I can eat this and this and this and still look like this. Right. And so then there were the people who were like, yeah, but your blood chemistry is probably a mess. And that battle started to happen. Right. I think it was way actually before that, the Super Size Me movie.
Yeah. The McDonald's.
Yeah. The guy who went, I forget his name. Unfortunately, he just passed away of cancer.
Did he really?
Yeah.
There was controversy about that recently, that he was an alcoholic and that's why he was unhealthy. Not necessarily because McDonald's, but
right. Whatever it is,
yeah.
I'm not the biochemist who's going to walk that one through. Certainly not.
Yep.
But it was like this whole world of this is what this food does do to you. And then there was this other world of, no, not if you don't do it like that.
Right.
And then I think it just, what you're describing to me comes across a lot like what I hope happens to veganism in the next 10 years. Where it's like, we used to think, what? People used to make documentaries saying, what? Do you think that it's a backlash from people throwing it in other people's faces?
Probably. I think there's a big misunderstanding of flexible dieting. I think there's a group out there, just called the clean eating only camp, that thinks that when we talk about macros or flexible dieting, that people are eating or just drinking protein shakes and eating like junk foods. And it's like anyone that's ever done flexible dieting will tell you the first day that if they tried that, the diet would be miserable and unsustainable. So it's like, if you give someone 2,000 calories, maybe a few hundred calories could be the fun stuff. Because if it's not, then they start to feel hungry because they have quick digesting foods that just aren't ideal. They feel lethargic because they're just not eating nutritious. So these things kind of work themselves out. And it's almost like you let people try to plan their day with macros, and they make like a bunch of silly decisions, and they don't want to do it again because they realize, just like money, don't do the silly thing. Like, it doesn't make sense when you make $32,000 to buy a BMW.
Well, the thing I run into, and always ran into when I tried to do this stuff, was I don't want to be doing math when I eat.
Yeah.
Like, if it looks like food,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm good to eat it. I'm pretty active.
Well, right, but like, what are the calories of food that you feel like you should eat?
I have no idea.
That's the thing, right? And that's where so many people, like when I say I was in these Facebook groups, they're like, I'm eating healthy, but I'm not losing weight. How many calories does healthy have? And when you pan back, if you're not yourself and you're watching you eat, are you actually eating the way you think you are? And my argument, based on the experience, and I just call it common sense, is no, because you're a human with a brain that's evolved over however many hundreds of thousands of years to tell you to reproduce and eat all day. That's what we're here for, right? So
my brain definitely tells me those two things.
Yeah, right. So when you're in this modern environment, you go to the grocery store, you are tempted with so much stuff, or you go out to eat, you don't know what's in the food, you have a drink here and there, you mindlessly eat, you clean up your kids' food and you start shoveling it in your mouth, and you tell me you're eating 1,200 calories and can't lose weight. I'm sorry, but I don't believe it. The math doesn't make sense.
Well, that's one of those. Cody, who you met briefly today, talks about the gap between truth and accuracy.
Yep.
And the truth, that person might genuinely be telling you the truth.
Yep.
Because it's what they're aware of. Where the reality is, no, you didn't think 2 chicken nuggets dipped into honey mustard was anything. And it really wasn't all that much.
Right.
But then you also didn't think that eating the crust of your kid's peanut butter and jelly sandwich that you made him wasn't a lot on the same day. And it wasn't by itself, but plus the chicken nuggets and the mustard. And then you didn't think that, just whatever at the end of their breakfast, eating that. And that ends up being an additional 500, for example, calories in a day. I'm making up a number because I'm clueless.
Yeah. Easy.
Right.
Easy.
And so now, 7 days a week, that's a pound.
Yeah. Or the weekend comes, and my big theory is a lot of people struggle with this stuff because they don't like their job. So what happens on Friday evening and Saturday and Sunday?
Drinking.
They go off the rails. And it's like, when you look back, you're like, wow, I really tried to take away some people's only source of joy in the week. And it sounds sad, but that is the case for some people. They go to work. It's so monotonous for them. Friday comes, they're like, I don't care about my diet. I ate well 5 days or 4.5 days this week. That should be enough. But it's unfortunately not. And it's like, just because you want it to be true doesn't mean it will be true. Like, it's just one of those examples of, like, people just don't know what enough actually is because of the current conditions we're in. Like, if, somebody makes $100,000 a year, they get fired, they have to somehow take a job that pays 60 and they have to pay the same bills. How do you figure that out?
Right.
You budget, or maybe in some cases you have to move. And that's how the calorie thing works, Well,
the other thing is the idea of enough. Like, I've heard when it comes to money, the thought process of, like, hey, if I asked you how much more money would make you happy right now, and you come up with a number, an extra $50,000 a year. Okay, here it is.
Yep.
Nobody in history has ever said, oh, I'm good now.
Yeah, it's a new normal.
Yes. And now you need more, because now you're making friends who are making that kind of money. They have this thing that you don't have, and you want to have the thing that they don't have. Like, it's that.
Yep.
And so it is similar with the food and the drinking and the partying and all that kind of stuff, especially in a work environment where you're like, look, most of my friends aren't even good 4 days a week.
Yep.
I'm great 4.5 days a week. I just go to happy hour. And then the weekend, like, we watch a game or whatever, and it's not that big of a deal. But so my question to you is, how much of the solution to that is nutrition as compared to Like, why are you so miserable at work and staying?
That's the thing that not enough nutrition people are talking about. Everyone's talking about the food. It's like, I want to know about the lifestyle. So I think if I got back in the game now, how deep I would go with people. I would ask questions like, who's your support system? And they'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, does your husband support you? Because, like, not to throw many husbands under the bus, they're a big reason why so many, especially of our women clients, struggled. Because say the dude is 250, that guy can he can make nutritional accidents all day long and maintain weight. If his wife is 150 pounds and they go out to eat, they might get the same dish or have the same drink. And that's like 40% of his calories. It could be 100% of her calories. And they're like, oh, you used to be fun. Oh, this is your diet, not my diet. It's like, yeah, but like, dude, you signed up to support her. You gotta watch that. And the same goes for, it could go the other way. And it goes for work colleagues and friends and everybody. So this is it's so much of the lifestyle, because like food is not just fuel. And I think the industry is over that saying. I think most people agree with that now. But we have to help people understand how they can work this stuff in or adjust their lifestyle in a way where the food isn't the only joy they get that day, because that's not going to serve you in this modern environment with these temptations where you could open your phone and just hit any of these buttons and have the most delicious Indian cuisine at your house. Like, you couldn't do that before.
You have to go to India before.
Yeah, dude, it's going to get so much worse.
I have no doubt, and we can get into the solutions for that in a minute. But I love to hear you say what you just described, because one of the things that I get into with any nutrition coach who comes on this podcast, not thinking of using a nutrition coach, is if there wasn't really good marketing, hyper palatable foods, and convenience in terms of the way that we get transport, do we have any of these problems?
No.
I don't think so either.
I don't think we do.
Right. And so their job, the nutrition coach's job, and likely my job, are completely unnecessary. So then doesn't our job become most effectively done by restoring people to a lifestyle that acts as if, in some way, we don't have these modern conveniences? I know that that's oversimplifying it, right? But the spouse maybe would have to be more supportive when it's, if you don't support me, the baby dies because I have to go out and hunt right now, or I have to go out and pick right now, and someone's got to keep this thing away from the animals. That's, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, you hit the nail on the head. It's too easy to be overweight now or unhealthy. It's too much fun to do that. It is literally, you're asking people to accept less joy in regards to food and sometimes social life to be in better shape. So that's the competition.
Are we though, or are we asking people to do less numbing? And so let me explain to you this way. I don't, if I'm not like, I'm really going to like that, I rarely eat it. Like I go to events sometimes, and the food that get, like, we went to an event, the food was fine. I'm like, no, I'm going to get tacos.
Yeah.
Like I want to enjoy the food I'm going to eat every time I eat. So I actually got really good at cooking, to the point that it almost doesn't make sense to go out to dinner unless we're going to one of 3 to 5 local spots, because other than them, I can make it better and healthier.
Yeah.
Better sourced ingredients. Like, I don't have no joy from that. I have tons of joy from it, because I also have joy from my work, my marriage, my parenting, my social life. So I don't need an escape. Does that make sense?
100%. And that's a line I used to tell people, like, try to live a life you don't need to escape from. Because if you always do, like, what are those easy, legal, not taboo things that you can get into? It's drinking and it's food. And that's what people are doing. So if you can cook for yourself and make it pretty much just as delicious, you'll be in a much better place. But for a lot of people, like, I look at the example with my wife and I, with these 2 little maniacs crawling and running around. Like, if we go to make dinner, we need to now turn our heads and watch 2 of these kids that...
How old are your kids?
2.5 and 1.
Right.
So little over 2.5. So like they could be best buddies, or the big one could just push the other one over. So it's like, it's so much easier sometimes to just click a few buttons or go get food.
Yep.
And that's some people's lives. Like so I'm like I think even more so now, especially after having kids, like so much more conscious of how challenging the food stuff can be for people and how much of an escape it is. And like, you think about how much pride people have in eating well. And, you know, I'll get into it with some people sometimes when they're like, I enjoy my salad just as much as I enjoyed those cookies. And I'm like, no, it's not the salad you're enjoying. It's the results and the feeling that you feel from making a more healthy decision. Because if you say you like the salad more than the cookie, evolutionary speaking, you're saying your taste buds are broken. Because we're here we want those sugary, fatty, delicious foods.
Oh, because if we were foraging, that says that is not going to be a hyper quick hit. That's fruit in the real world. That's it. It's fruit. And so that's a sugar source with micronutrients that is extremely beneficial when you're living on just enough calories to survive. But I think that there is, though, the after effect. So like if I eat a piece of pizza, which I do from time to time, we have some great pizza in Long Beach.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, I need to go to sleep. I enjoy the crap out of eating it. I don't enjoy the crap out of after eating it. So in that regard, I would rather eat the salad. But I like the mouth experience of the pizza better. Let's be honest.
Makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So that conversation gets really deep, and I feel like people run into this wall of, I don't want to talk to my clients about this stuff, or I don't want to talk to my coach about this stuff. Hey, I hired you to get me into a bikini.
Right.
Do magic, bro. Just do the thing. How would you, like, I imagine you're doing this with friends now and family, even if you're not coaching. I imagine you're the guy who asks the hard question. Am I wrong?
It doesn't really come up. Like, people don't.
I don't mean around food.
Oh, just in general?
Yeah. Like, like if someone you cared about was going through something hard, most people are going to be like, yeah, man, it's like, totally get it. If you ever need anything. And they mean well.
Right.
I imagine you're the guy who asks the question that makes them think.
Oh, yeah. I love that stuff. And I joke that I'm like, I must just not have a lot of time on my hands. But I, thinking about thinking, and I talk to our buddy Jeb about it all the time. Like, I love looking at the world a little bit differently and slower. And I think that's a very privileged place to be, because so many people are just go, go, go all day long. And they don't have that time to think about the deeper stuff. And that's what I love to problem solve. It's what I did with the nutrition stuff. I joke that, like, I wasn't a nutrition coach. I was more of a nutrition strategist, because I wanted to, like, encompass their whole lifestyle and, like, why they do things. And it was like, for so many people, it was mind blowing. They would ask silly questions like, Mike, I need a frozen meal that's high protein. And I'm like, okay, well, I see you asking for something quick. Why do you need something quick? Right. Oh, because this is happening. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. And, like, sometimes coaches don't want to go down that route because they just want to send a reply email, go to the next one, and go make an Instagram reel or something. I wanted to get down and dirty with what the hell's going on.
So that's the only way I like to have friends. It's the only way I like to coach clients. Like, one of our friends on the thread posted in that group chat something very personal he's going through, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is why I enjoy a group thread with guys like this on it, because that guy knows that that's a group of people who are going to receive it.
Yep. And
legitimately, I know it sounds really like a cliche woo-woo term, but hold the space for him and provide him an outlet if he wants to talk about it. So I'm curious then, because when it comes to things like quick fixes, I feel like you're more forgiving of them than I am. So, like, for example, very specifically Ozempic, right?
Yep.
I think we would both agree that ideally, in a romantic world, somebody's able to get that person and say, how did you end up here?
Yep.
Tell me about your relationships. Why do you think that? And spend 3 years working through it. I think we agree on that.
Yes. Yes.
When do we decide not to do that and to instead take what would be considered in this case a quick fix, by me at least?
That's the thing I think personally I struggle with a little bit for people is how do you determine who can fix it themselves and with help or who needs something like Ozempic. And now I'll use that as the quick fix example because like I don't want people doing crash diets as the quick fix because we know how that goes. So Ozempic and these other weight loss drugs, like my perception is we don't necessarily know the downsides yet, but we do know the downsides of long-term obesity.
Right.
So I'm not suggesting someone that wants to lose 5 pounds, go get some shots and lose it, you know, suppress your appetite so you don't eat like the cookie after dinner. Like that's an easy fix. But say someone that's like 300 pounds and has like some upbringing and genetic wiring in their head and conditioning that has led them to this position. And maybe their job is hard and they're a single mom or they just can't get it done. I'm totally okay with those people getting a little help. Now, I could change my mind maybe in a couple of years if we find out this stuff is really, really bad. Or I could say, everybody just jump on it. Put the nutrition coaching world out of business because it will never do what this drug can do.
Well, what I like about what you're describing there is it's a personality profile.
Yep.
It's not just if you weigh this and you're this tall. It's not just if you've tried this. There is a personality profile of a person for whom we can be as romantic as we want. They're not going to solve that problem in that way.
Yeah.
And so we know the risks of them not solving that problem. We don't know the risks of them solving it like this, but we know the other ones are intolerable. So do the thing.
Right.
I can get behind that. You asked me a great question on our text thread, and I actually lit up when I saw it because I was like, oh, this is a test, and I like this test. And I don't mean to say that you were testing me in that way.
Yeah.
It was
just a question.
Right. But it's my favorite question to ask people who are really steadfast in a belief system. What would you have to see to change your mind? Was the question that you asked me. And I love that question because it indicates if somebody's actually being rational about what they're thinking, if they're actually being thoughtful in it, or if it's just religion.
Yeah.
Right? Do you ask that question to people often?
Yes. If it's going down the route of like, I want to get to know where their opinion, what's the genesis of their opinion? Why do they feel this way? Because I think, not you specifically, but there are a lot of fitness professionals now who are just completely writing off this drug it's like the easy way out, like a lazy person's thing. And I would argue those people probably, if they feel that way, they should not even be in this field because they don't understand their customer at a very fundamental level. So I always want to know like where people get their beliefs from, like who's planting the seed, what have you done to think of the other side? And so that's my methodology there. And I do it to myself. Like we talk, if I ever got back in the nutrition game, why would I do it? Why do I feel like I would? Why do I feel like I wouldn't? And I just like to think like that because it helps you remove biases, I think, and really understand and be aware of who you are.
Well, I think a reasonable thing for anybody to do before you decide that you have a strong opinion about something is ensure that you could argue just as strongly for the opposition.
Yeah.
A lesson I learned more times than I should have needed to learn it, frankly, was if I can't make the other person's argument as well as I can make mine, it means I don't understand their position. And so I'm just arguing from what I understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I love this example because this is what I used to tell our coaches about all these other methodologies. I said, you better know keto and intermittent fasting and all these supplement companies and every diet protocol out there. You should know better than the people asking you what you think of it. Because a Netflix documentary would come out and cause chaos in our Facebook community. Oh, Game Changers comes out. What do you guys think? We better know what to say about this. So you need to know and argue both sides of that point and figure out who makes the most sense.
Did you ever go into something where you were like, let's just use Game Changers as an example. I imagine you watched it because you were like, I need to know what they're saying so that people, when they ask me, I can know where they're asking from. Did you ever watch a documentary, read a book, listen to a podcast, check out an article just to understand the other side and then decide there's actually something there that I should take?
That was most recently. It was probably on all the talk about tracking is giving people eating disorders and all the talk about that from a lot of the like intuitive eating camp. And what I found is a lot of it's projection. A lot of the people saying it are looking at research about tracking without the I guess asterisk of under the supervision of a coach. So like if tracking mentally would affect someone, I want to know what's the likelihood of someone being unaffected or positively changed under the guidance of a coach versus just randomly downloading MyFitnessPal, having absolutely no clue how to eat, how to plan, how to do anything, and them having a negative effect versus the one with the coach. So that was recently, I'm like, did I make a mistake with tracking stuff? You take people off the street and you're like, I'm going to have you track. Yes, we had questions and things like that, eating disorder, like guides, if, you know, to make sure that we're doing okay. And I was very upfront and confident about our surveys that we had that were like, yes, almost everyone here has a better relationship with food. But when you're being fed by the current narrative that tracking is bad and everyone needs to just do X, Y, and Z, I start to question it. And I'm like, did I make a mistake? And ultimately I decided no. I think maybe I would do some things a little bit differently, but that's probably the closest I've been lately to saying, like, if I'm wrong, I will change my mind.
I have a thought that I'm in between on of my own that I used to feel very strongly one way, and I'm curious your opinion. The belief that let me start here. Again, back to Cody, give that guy some credit. I like the expression strong beliefs loosely held, right? So meaning I believe strongly in this, but I'm wide open to changing my mind. I believe taking a before picture of a client is, and weighing them, right? All the like poking, prodding, weighing, measuring, all that kind of stuff. I think it does more harm than it does good for a few reasons. I think, that is for the benefit of the coach, not for the benefit of the client most of the time. It's so that we can put this online and show the results that we get. That's number one, which makes that person an object in a way that I don't really like. Two is I believe that most of the time when somebody is looking for help, it's because there's a part of themselves that they've lost. And so, for example, they're overweight. It's because they don't love themselves. They don't love the way that they look. I'm not saying that's why they're overweight. They came for help because, right? Their back hurts. They didn't come to help because their back hurts. They came for help because they're losing a part of their life that they can't experience anymore because their back hurt. The equivalent for us taking a before and after picture at Active Life would be somebody sitting on a bench sad while his kids played with their wife. Right? That just feels, I don't even know, like weird and wrong. And so now when I see this stuff, I'm like, stop taking before and after pictures of your clients. The only way they're going to get to a place of self-love with a different body is if they get to a place of self-love now, because that's actually the catalyst, not the body change and then earning the love. Does that make sense?
Yes. And this is something I have conflicting thoughts on because I don't know what the right answer is. I think we're in a time now where we are going away from before and afters, but it costs a lot of people success in this business because those customers that are going to sign up when they see a before and after are going to find someone who's showing a before and after, and they're going to work with that person. Now, you could argue that if you're a very good coach, you are actually helping people by getting them into your ecosystem from sharing a picture of someone, because that's what that person wants. and using it as the example of give them what they want, sell them what they need.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't put those pictures out there and you don't help those people, they're probably just going to go to some garbage program that is going to get them leaner. So I don't know what the right thing is. I think, yeah, if everyone could just be just as successful in this business without showing the bodies, yes. But I think what we're asking is, are we going to systematically change the world and how we feel about leanness and muscle and attractiveness and all these like cliches about it? Because people still want that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. I don't know what the right thing is.
What do you think you would do now?
Honestly, I don't think I would do it. But, and again, I'm going to ask myself why I feel that way. It's because I don't think I need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a reputation now that if I say something online or say I'm coaching again, I think I could get enough clients to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm a new coach starting over on day one, there's no stronger you story without posting before and afters.
Interesting.
And I would argue that's most businesses.
Mm-hmm.
My friend that has a painting company, if he doesn't show his work, people aren't going to just take his word for it.
Right.
So obviously it's different because you have a human involved,
Mm-hmm.
and you're sort of playing that part of like, look at this body and then look at that one.
Mm-hmm.
That one is worse. This one is better.
Right.
And, you have people that say, well, that's what they wanted, blah, blah. Yes, it is. But there is a reality to that. And in any part of life, there's some collateral damage. So I don't know ultimately what the right answer is. If I have stats on 50,000 people that we helped them with body image, how they view weight, all this stuff, like food relationships, but we only got it because we showed before and afters, is that not a positive thing?
I mean, I think it would be.
Yeah, I that's the thing. I don't know.
Right. Again, I think that goes back to the romanticism that I have, where it would be like, oh, everyone's just going to stop doing that. So now that's off the table as a way that people find the right person to work with. But then there'd probably just be something else.
Yeah, there's going to be the other companies are going to show the before and afters.
Mm-hmm.
So if you choose not to do it for moral reasons, which I respect,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to accept that you're not going to be able to actually help these people. They may go somewhere worse.
Now, where's your mind on price conscious work? And I'll share what I mean by that. What we do for the end user, especially in our brick and mortar, is much more expensive than anybody else in town.
Yep.
We have a wait list for people to join. We have to turn off our marketing. Our staff goes through over 1,000 hours of education and then weekly continuing development. Like those are career professionals.
Yep.
They're not doing this until they get a real job. They make 6 figures in many cases. And their salary, it's not like eat what you kill.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is the real deal. And part of my conscience is like, I want to be able to give this to the people who could never afford to do it. And even if I could create scholarship spots, what am I going to help? 5 people?
Yeah.
And then how do I decide? Like, oh, you're not making enough money and for legitimate reasons. You can't afford it, but they're for illegitimate reasons. Where are you at on that?
That's a tough one because I would say that the pricing model of Stronger You was to make it accessible to the masses.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it was able to give these people jobs in the field that is a very, very hard field to succeed in. Mm-hmm. Like we had coaches making a ton of money, doing great work. And I felt a lot of pride around that. And I know if I could morally charge 3 or 4 times what I was charging, but we would have less people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think as long as there's places for these people to go, I don't think you, the individual, have to feel bad if you want to charge what you think the value you provide. And now that's a slippery slope because I think it's a cliche thing in business to charge your worth.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of business influencers in this world now that are like convincing off the street coaches of all types of industries to charge $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month. And I'm like, no, if I came back, I don't know what I would do.
Right.
I think what I know in my experience could be extremely valuable, but I also don't want to be ridiculous.
Well, I'll tell you how I made the decision to charge what we charge. It was the rule I made, the constraint I made, is there cannot be anything that we are unable to provide to a client that we know we are capable of providing, that we know would help them, because they're not paying enough for us to afford to be able to give it to them.
I see. Yep.
So we built out the process. This is what we think we're going to do. Then I said, okay, if we charged 5 times as much as this would need to cost, what would we add or remove? Like, what would we change? Because we now have enough money to do that. Then you start looking at, okay, we do these things. Well, are we okay with not doing those things?
Yep.
No. Okay, great. Well, then what do we now need to charge to do those things too? Keep rinsing and repeating until, okay, I can't imagine something that somebody else would do that I believe is essential. I can imagine plenty of things people would do that I believe are not essential.
Right.
We don't have hyperbaric chambers. There's no red light therapy, no cold tubs, no saunas, no, MRIs or DEXA scans. Like, I don't think that stuff's essential. Do you follow me?
Yes.
And that's how we ended up. And I was like, what does this have to cost for us to be able to do it forever? Okay, there's the price.
That's in my head. That's how I would redo a one-man nutrition company if I started.
Mm-hmm.
I would go much deeper than I did. And you had a great example where you say, like, what would we not do? And a lot of that is like, we had to work with a lot of people. There's probably some things we missed or we didn't touch on that we could have. Mm-hmm. Like maybe it would be advantageous for our members to literally get on a call with their coach for an hour a week just to talk through this stuff. And now not everybody would need that, but there's some people going through some crazy stuff. And I'm not talking therapy, but I am talking like, hey, like, let's talk about how you grocery shop. Like, what makes you do it that way? Mm-hmm. Like, that's really hard to have conversations in a weekly email or random text message.
Yep.
So I would probably do a little bit different. So I wouldn't be able to handle as many clients. So I'd have to charge a lot more.
Right. I imagine part of the reason that you were so successful is I'm hearing a commonality from you that I think I'm going to share it, and then you tell me what your thoughts are. And this is not to toot my own horn. You'll understand when I get to the end of this statement.
Yeah.
I always tell people we're not done helping a client when we solve their pain point. We're done helping a client when we've solved for the pain behind their pain point to such a degree that they've become a positive social influence on other people in their lives because of how much about them has changed. So, for example, nobody comes in because their shoulder hurts. They come in because something in their life, they're not able to do it anymore because their shoulder hurts. And they're afraid of, who am I if I don't have the ability to do those things anymore? And when they're living like that, people around them feel it. And so when people around them are striving for excellence, they're not necessarily going to be like, go and get it, because they can't get it themselves. So that whole thing, all the way through to, no, you're going to get back to doing that thing and your shoulder's going to get better as a result. And because you see that you can go from down here to up there, you're never going to let people around you live with less than that. We charge a premium for that. I imagine part of the reason you were so successful is at Stronger you did as much of that as you possibly could at an accessible price point. Does that sound true?
Yeah. I mean, we wanted to fix this stuff. We didn't want to just, the term, like, get people just skinny. Mm-hmm. Like, that was never the goal. I wanted them to know so much about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think the proof that we were successful with that is that we didn't have ads and marketing. Mm-hmm. We just had a bunch of happy clients running around saying, right, you got to talk to these people.
That's awesome.
That was the goal. It's the most proud thing that a business owner can have, as you know, when your people are just so happy that you solved a lifelong problem. Well,
what you're speaking to there is something we talked about in our walk today earlier also, where I was talking to another entrepreneur. I texted him today. He was thanking me for how I talked to him yesterday. I said, look, man, I have all of the scars from the battles you're about to fight.
Yeah.
Anytime You want to shoot a text, hop on a call, I'm here for you. Yep. And this is a guy who, we talked about this too. If he ends up being really successful, he ends up being my direct competitor. Good. Like if people can see that there's more people doing this, then it becomes normal that coaches go through 13 months of education that's mentored. I'm not the only one doing it. Like, you ever seen the video of the guy dancing on a hill?
I don't know.
Oh, it's great. There's a video of a guy at like I don't know where he is, but he starts dancing. Random, like, looks crazy. All of a sudden, someone else comes up, starts dancing with him. The next thing you know, everyone on the hill is dancing. Yep. And right now, I kind of feel in a lot of ways like I'm the only guy dancing on a hill. And people think I'm crazy. And I'm like, hey, you're only having any fun. Why don't you get up and dance with me? And it stirs things up. But anyway, all that to say, the conversation I was having with him was largely, I know someone else told you to run Facebook ads, but I think maybe wait. Maybe wait until you've had clients who have told you you've changed their life so much that they're forced to refer their friends, where when you offer something, it fills. And now you're like, okay, I need Facebook ads because I need more people to know about this who don't know these people, and I want to bring them in fast. But alternatively, right now, I think in the business world, a lot of people are being told, as you said before, by mentors, by business coaches, buy the traffic. Like,
fill the funnel.
Get all of that.
Yep.
And I equate that to spraying a bunch of lighter fluid on a pile of sand and then throwing a match on it and thinking that you have a sustainable fire.
Yeah.
How would you talk to a young entrepreneur about that?
I want to make sure young entrepreneurs are good enough at the job and service they're offering to know that if they were to get an influx of clients, that they could serve them. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a fan of those methods because I think it turns these professionals into salespeople and not necessarily the practitioners they are. Mm-hmm. Because anybody can succeed in business if you just sell a bunch of stuff. But the goal is to not just sell a bunch of stuff, it's to sell a bunch of stuff to people who you are helping. Mm-hmm. So I'm not generally a big fan of that. You know, a lot of nutrition coaches will ask me, like, how do I get clients? Do I need ads? Do I need this? And I'm like, how are you coaching? What's your style? Mm-hmm. What are you doing now to get clients? And they're just like, oh, I'm just making content. I'm making content. I'm like, everybody's making content.
What's interesting about the making content thing is there were some people we both met, I imagine, at the Real Coaches Summit some of whom I really connected with. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I see something in this person, and they have it if they allow people to see it. And if they don't allow people to see it, they're going to fail. You follow me?
Yeah.
And so I watched them on their social, and they're posting content. And I sent one of them in particular a message recently, and I was like, hey, stop teaching. Start telling stories.
Yeah.
We talked about this at the event. What will make people know that you're credible is when you share with people how your life changed as a result of learning these things. If you just keep teaching people, everyone just thinks you've always been an attractive woman with a great body who like took a weekend course and is just regurgitating the textbook. Yep. They can buy it. Tell them about the scars.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like that's the content that these people who are creating content are missing. Do you follow me there?
It's sharing like who they are. Like I said earlier, like people knew how I met my wife, my cat.
Right.
They knew that I was hiding in the bathroom trying to help people on my cell phone to get out of my full-time job. They wanted to play a part in the underdog story. Mm-hmm. And I think I don't know if it's they don't want to bring people into their personal lives or they don't think their story is like unique enough. Mm-hmm. But it's like when you think of like, especially small business, people love to support the person. They don't want to support the big business. Mm-hmm. So like give them a reason to support you. And I think there's this feeling that all these fitness professionals have to appear like so polished and like they've always had it together and that they don't need help from clients, that they kind of shoot themselves in the foot because they're not asking for the business or they're not giving anybody reason to support them.
this is where I think people like you could be the most helpful to entrepreneurs. I'll explain. Most business coaches today, and when I say most, the only reason I didn't say all is because I assume there's someone I don't know who's doing it, are teaching people tactics. Like this funnel or this lead nurture or even this way of servicing a client, this charge, like this rate, whatever, tactics. But you and I both know people who are a mess in life, who we care about, who have tried like this diet to that diet, this workout plan to that workout plan, this job to that job, this cleanse to that cleanse, this biohack to that you follow what I'm saying.
Yep.
And it's a hard thing to sit by and watch, and sometimes all you can do is sit by and watch and ask questions and let them come to their own conclusions. But the reality is that they're not one tactic away from success. They're a whole different person away from success. And if they changed who they were, the tactics would flow. But none of us want to acknowledge that if somebody who achieved what we want to achieve in life looked at us, that they would say the same about us. Do you follow me?
Yep.
I think we need more people like sharing that message, because there's nuance to what you just described. There's going online now and saying, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Okay. If you become a struggle account, no one wants to work with you either.
Right.
So there's that line that people need to toe of what do I share, what don't I share, and how do I share it when I do? And that's personal development.
And that's one of those things I think that some people just have it, and them being authentic and real is their core competency. It's why they succeeded. So I think if you have people that you think should be different or try to be different, like they just can't do it because they're showing up to work all day, every day, to do something they don't want to do. So it's really hard. And I talk to quite a few people that I think you should just get out of the industry. I've
done this.
I don't say it to people because I think it's very hard to say, and maybe that's a fault in me that I'm not honest with people. But like in my story, like it only worked because like I was the one doing it. Like when you sell the business and things change and you're not there and it doesn't go the same, you do start to get that feedback that you were afraid to accept, that you did something cool. And that I think I'm maybe humble and talk about luck to a fault, because I don't want to seem like I did something cool, because you're not supposed to talk about that.
That's interesting. Because I think that you come across, when I first met you, there was an obvious air of self-esteem. I didn't think that you were cocky or unapproachable. It was the opposite. I was like, this guy could take it or leave it if I become friendly with him, right? Yeah. He's wide open to me walking through that door. And he really could care less. It's up to me. That's kind of how I felt. I don't know if that makes sense. Or
not. I get. It's funny to think about like how people perceive you and your openness. It's interesting. Yeah.
There was abundant openness. That was obvious to me. And there was a with or without you attitude that for me was attractive in a person I want to be friends with, because it was like you the reason I'm discussing this is because you might talk about luck when people ask you specifically about how this all happened, right place, right time, right mindset, right friends, whatever. But I think that you also have an air of competence about you that is undeniable. And so in some regards, I think the way you talk about luck is charming, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to ask you and all of that is now actually kind of lost. I forget where I was going to go with it.
Make me seem cool. No.
You are cool. You're cool. Man, I forgot what I was going to be. Maybe I'll come back to it. There was one real thing, and then there were two other things that I want to talk to you about, so I guess I'll just start on the other ones. I asked some people close to you, what are some questions that I should ask you on the podcast?
Oh, great.
And
I think I'm like picturing a few people, but I don't know if it's them.
Well, I'm sure one of them is. So one of the things that I got asked was, I heard you're actually a pretty good basketball player.
Yeah, I'm okay, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But I heard you can't beat Derek Stanley.
Oh, jeez. Okay. You want me to answer that?
I heard he just bodies you around the court.
Well, we did play at after a seminar we did in Texas, and my team beat his team, I believe, 3 times in a row.
Okay.
I don't know. The only variable was me, so Derek kissed my ass. No,
It wasn't
he's
him
good.
who said it, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
Huh. This is interesting.
Yeah.
No, Derek's good.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's good.
Okay.
He did mess up my AC joint. It's all good now, but he landed on me.
Nice. That doesn't surprise me.
No.
I'm telling you, Derek, if you're listening, you have a cousin named Josh Daniel, who's a good friend of mine, who lives in New Jersey, and they are like the same, like across the board, the same person. And I love Josh. He's great. And Derek is great too. Another question I got asked was, and this is, I'm fast. I want to hear the story, because you come across as a confident, stoic kind of guy who's a deep thinker and very introspective. And I heard that you had a sign on your desk that said, "Every day I'm hustling."
Yep.
What was the story behind that?
So it was basically a joke, like hustle culture, right? Everyone is like hustle, grind, blah, blah, blah. So every time I would post something like silly online about getting clients, like for example, I was telling you today where I had a bowl of fruit and I had a sticky note in the background, and I know everybody's kind of nosy, so I wrote on the sticky note because I knew they were going to read it, and it said, "Fruit is expensive. Sign up for Stronger You." Just to be playful. And then I would hashtag in these posts, "Every day I'm hustling." So one of our clients sent me the plaque that said, "Every day I'm hustling."
Okay.
So a bunch of us went to Bermuda. I brought the sign with us. And just to be silly, like we rented a house for the whole crew to stay in. And I took the drone and I flew it away from the sign just to just be stupid. Right. And so that's the genesis of that thing. It's like, every time I would try to get clients or post about online, like about Stronger You and signing up, I would hashtag "Every day I'm hustling." And it was just like this little meme.
I like that.
Yeah.
How did you decide who to take to Bermuda? You had a big team. You're just like, hey,
no,
you guys are cool?
I don't even remember. I think it was just like some of the people we were closer with, and I threw it out to everyone in our little, what did they call it? Workplace.
Right.
The little.
So did you pay for these guys to come?
I didn't pay for their flights. I paid for the place. I paid for the 5 mopeds.
So you could have ended up paying for 100.
Well, I knew that wouldn't happen.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it would have went like that.
Right.
But yeah, I had like a stop in my head somehow to not let that happen.
Right.
But yeah, there was like maybe 10 people, and some people brought their wives and husbands and things.
That's cool. I know what my question was going to be, the one that got lost. I feel like there's an upstate New York, downstate New York, even though you wouldn't say I'm upstate New York, you're not. Yep. You're just outside the city on the other side. But anyone who knows anyone from Long Island knows that if you're west of Manhattan, you're upstate.
You're up,
so anyway, you haven't told people they should get out of the industry. You were talking earlier. You said that earlier.
Yep.
I have. And when I have, I've done it. There's always been this thought that goes through my mind right before I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The thought is always, you better say this in a way that you don't end up as the story on the podcast from this wild success. Who said, Sean Pastuch told me to quit, so I decided to be a fucking monster.
I have those stories.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear one in a second. But so the way I've done it is I've just put in front of people the reality of what needs to be true if they're going to stay.
Yep.
And then ask them, you need to face down whether you can do this or not. If you want to be able to do this, these things need to be true. And they've always been objective things, not things that I'm projecting. For example, you own a CrossFit gym where you're a personal trainer and you're telling me you're making $4,000 a month and you need to be able to make $8,000 just to stay where you're living right now and support the kids you didn't have before but do now.
Right.
Fine. This is the math for you to get to $8,000 the way that you're running your business right now.
Yeah.
Do you want that business? No. Okay, what business do you want? Great. This is the math to getting there that way. To get there that way, here are 70 different ways you could do it. Do you see yourself aligned with any of them? And are you capable of executing on the one you're aligned with? If the answer is no, this isn't for you.
Right.
It just boils down pretty simple. And some have done it, and some have been like, you know what? I'm gonna go apply for a job.
Yeah.
And that's great. So what's one of the stories you've had like that? Are you talking about someone who told you can't do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. There was, and that was, I almost didn't do it because of the pushback I was getting. Like I was talking with confidence that this stuff would work and this is what you have to do. But like I'm a decently fit dude, but I've never been shredded. I've never been what someone would call jacked. And I would get a lot of people that were like, where are your abs? Why are you doing this? What have you done for yourself to earn the right to do this? I literally have these comments like saved and like they're in the Facebook memories. And I passively aggressively like tagged or commented on one of them to be like, hey, I'm glad it worked. Like, thanks for the push. Because like, and now like in my older, wiser days, like I understand competition is like whatever. Like I don't really care that much. But then it was like, I want this thing to fucking dominate. And these people did light fires under me. And there were people along the business that did like some really shady stuff, like clients breaking off, starting competitive companies, messaging our clients, trying to say they do the same, come over there. No, but like, thank you for giving me the fire to just kick the shit out of you. Like that's who I can be.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's right or wrong in, you know, the whole mindfulness world, right? But it helps me to think, because like there were times where if I listened to people, I wouldn't have done it, and there wouldn't be all these people that got helped. There would be people like me who worked in the industry, all because I cared what people thought. And I tell people, like, you can care. Like, it's okay to care what people think. Just don't let it control your life, you know?
Yeah, look, I ran into the problem personally of making those stories up. People didn't tell me I couldn't do it so much. It was people who didn't give me a chance to do it with them, who I thought were like worth doing it with. People who already had a level of status, recognition that I felt I deserved when I was breaking through. And then some who I ended up working with and finding that like, you're not at all who you say you are. And then I ran into the issue, which was helpful for me, if not unhealthy. Like, it was kind of like being able to work 24 hours. Should you? No. Is it helpful when you do? Sometimes.
Oh yeah. I have interesting thoughts on all that.
Yeah. But I would build these people up in my head and be like, I'm going to bury this person who doesn't even know we're competing. So that was helpful for me early on. Why don't you do more speaking?
I don't know. Probably I think it's a combination. Shyness, and I don't want to prep. I'm lazy right now. I get asked sometimes, and also like I don't want to get away from the family too much.
Right.
You know? I think if I were to put my head down and say, all right, I'm going to create a nice little presentation, I think I could do well. But I challenge myself as to why I want to do it. Do I want the recognition to be looked at as like a thought leader in the industry and someone who did something? Like, yeah, maybe kind of. Or do I want to help all these people? Maybe a little of both. So I try to really think of like why I would want to do it. And I haven't really gotten to the point where I actually feel like doing it yet. But I don't know, because that ship is going to sail. You know, like when did I sell the business? 3 years ago? Like, I'm going to be old news soon.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
For perspective, for your own sake, I do it for both of those reasons.
Yeah.
I have an ego that leads me to believe that event is better if I'm on that stage.
Yeah.
And so the people in the attendance are going to have a better experience if I speak. And there's going to be a hole if I don't. Yep. My left shoulder and right shoulder, devil and angel, tell me that's true.
Well, it was true. I don't know if that's good for you to hear, but well,
thank you.
We did like your talk.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's always nice to hear, and it's so airtight for me Like my sense of identity is so clear and strong for me that I don't know that it would matter. Maybe if 100 people told me in a row, you suck.
Yeah. but I don't know what I'm actually shy about. I've done presentations, you know, I've had 100 something people in front of me just with no presentation, just riffing, you know. So I love Q&A stuff. It's probably just the whole like shyness thing, you know. Growing up, I was a shy kid. It's like the internet helped me because you could just hide behind a keyboard, like you're a little face in a thumbnail, you know.
Did you have any imposter syndrome when you got your payday? Was there any like, what am I going to do with this?
No. So and this is probably ego. Like I didn't need to sell the business to be financially secure. Like we were crushing it since day one. So like I'm not stupid with money, and I saved a lot of money. So honestly, it was a very uneventful day. The closing of the business happened. A wire transfer went into my account, and I got pizza, and literally nothing really changed. So
that's so wild.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like this event is so important and major, but we were profitable leading up to it, so it was a lot at once.
Right.
But it was like just electronic numbers. Like, what am I going to do with it? And don't get me wrong, I've done some things and bought some stuff, but for the most part, what's important to me is that if I don't want to work, I don't have to, and I can still take care of my family and live a lifestyle I want. Now, I can't do certain things, but when I think about why I would want to do those things, it's never from a place of like a need. It's always from a place of like ego or some bullshit like that. So I'm super, and I try not to, like, I ask myself, am I full of shit? Like, do I say that just to convince myself I have enough, or do I actually have enough?
Well, I've never met your wife and I haven't met your kids, but I've spent time with you.
Yep.
And I've seen the way that you share about them on your social media. And there's something that you have that I think envy is the wrong word, but something that you have that I haven't tapped into yet personally. That is genuine, seemingly full-time presence and enjoyment when you're in their company. I love my kids. I love my wife. I'm good for 90 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And I'm still I'm a radical when it comes to our mission. I know how crazy I am. And I put it into this. So I think it's reasonable to say that you have enough money to do the things that are the most important to you all the time. And that's
it. It's a beautiful place to be, because I know a lot of people in similar situations who they're kind of broken. They're just still doing the thing for reasons that they can't even understand.
Right.
And I tell this to a lot of people, like, if you view my life, you might think it is so friggin' boring. And it kind of is, and it's great.
Right.
Like, what do you need to do? Like, I'm such a weirdo now. Like, I look at trees and I'm like, that's a really nice tree. Or you hear water and you're like, ah, so peaceful. Then your kid screams and you're like, oh shit. Okay. But yeah, like, and it's very new to me still. It's, you know, I've only been in the parenthood thing for 2.5 years. So
it only gets better, man.
Yeah. And it's, like, I did the thing with the business. Like I said, like, give me credit for working hard, but like, I didn't want to do it anymore. I lost the love for it. And it was, I don't know if it was because it wasn't because I sold, because I was ready to do what I was doing continuously, because I was like, oh shit, we got in this network with a couple million people. Like, this could be crazy. But then you have your kids and you hear them in the other room and you're like, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I just want to be done. And it's the thing that, like, people want the story of like making a shit ton of money and just dipping out. But it's like, you might have what I have and what gives me the most joy. It's not electronic numbers. It's peace of mind knowing that I won't have money problems, but I'll still have other problems, because human nature is to solve a problem and then just find the next one.
Right.
So it's, you know what I mean? Like it's,
There's still traffic today.
Oh, dude, it was crazy. Yeah.
Can't buy your way out of traffic. I guess you could if you had a helicopter. But where would you land it?
Right.
In Wisconsin.
Inside joke. Yeah. But yeah, that's it, man. It's like, I think, and again, like I'm very new to this lifestyle. So 5-10 years from now, maybe I'll be a little bored and kids will be at school all the time and I'll want to do something. But right now I don't, because I know I'll be an old man and be like, well, I'm glad I was around for that, you know? So yeah, it's weird, man. I don't feel like, I feel so fucking lucky, you know?
Well, I think part of the luck is because you're a good dude.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I try.
Well, it's the combination of being a good dude, taking care of people, and working hard with that in mind.
Yeah.
You know, like, we met because you came to Aram's event. You came to Aram's event because you wanted to be around friends.
Yep.
That's why you're successful.
It was so fun.
That's my take on it. But I want to make a point of having people understand this. Most people who go to events like that are going to events like that because they want to find a way to make more money. Fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. And the argument can be made. Mike doesn't need to make more money, so of course he was able to go and just be with his friends. But I'm willing to bet if that event happened 7 years ago, you're there.
I'm there.
Yes.
I was at these events.
For the same reason. Just to be around people.
Right.
That's the luck that you might have, is being born or nurtured to the temperament that's what you want to do. Because I think that's what makes you successful, man.
I just somehow happened to be the right person for the thing that I wanted to do. And like I said, it was play. It was so fun. It like fills my cup so much. And it's probably because I'm locked in the house with 2 kids all day and I wanted to see some full-grown adults. But dude, it's so fun. But we would bring crews to these things. Yeah. Like there was times where we had 12 Stronger You people, 15 Stronger You people just at an event, just having a great time.
I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome. Turn pro. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Active Life Podcast. Please remember, give us a hand, rate it, review it wherever you listen to shows. We are on a mission to humanize the healthcare industry by professionalizing the fitness industry to empower the individual to live a life unlimited by the way that their body looks, feels, or performs. If you are inspired by that mission and want to jump on the wagon, find us anywhere. Active Life Professional on Instagram, Active Life RX on Instagram. Come to me personally at Dr. Sean Pastuch. We want to welcome you onto the train. We want you to be a part of the mission. We want to offer you the opportunity to pursue this right alongside us. We're inspired by your effort, and we hope to help you in your journey. Turn pro.